Hello and welcome to Blue Dragon Universe. This is the Blue Dragon Actual YouTube channel. So I'm recording this video after a long time. Actually, my team wants me to create a video on real estate and what is the situation of real estate in India, how we can purchase a house. Because I've recently, bought two houses and they think that that is a very relevant thing for our actuarial community because it's related to personal finance and it is also uh, somehow related to risk. So there are a couple of things that I was discussing with them, and that is why I felt that it might be important. But right now, I felt that there is a more important question that needs to be tackled, and that is related to like many people have reached out to me about the future of actually an AI, right? Whether actually would survive, whether actually would not survive, and they have asked my opinion. And since I've received many questions on that regard, I thought that why not make a video on that. Now, this is a video where we need not require any presentation. I can just share my opinions like this, and you need not agree with me, right? I always say that you need not agree with me. But I think it is your duty and responsibility to check the facts, what I'm saying, and I'll give my own facts for that, but I believe that you must not trust anyone without verifying that yourself. So it is your own task to verify the facts that I'll be stating. But yeah, do not trust anyone blindly. And actuaries of this generation somehow have that habit of trusting people blindly. I see these days also I see people are asking for mock test and everything, which for which I have mentioned many times that it's freely available in the website. There is no need, but because someone else is saying you would like to buy that. And especially if something is free, then actual students go gaga over it. So I just don't understand that. So I'll always tell you to verify things from your end before trusting anyone. Right. Having said that, I have already done my homework when I'm going to say what I'm going to say. But of course, I believe that you should be verifying that independently on your own. Okay. So moving on to the topic of AI and actual agents. Now, what does actual agents are useful for? So I think in actual world, significant portion is modeling, right? And modeling involves a lot of coding, be it an actual software. Uh, you need to know the language of that software, right? Along with that, you need to know the actual knowledge as well. So we have that course called actual inner engineering where we are kind of teaching how actual software works. Now, my question, and I have previously have worked in an actual software development company. That is where your knowledge grows significantly because you are working with multiple regulations, you are building things, and you are answering queries from different people who are working in different regulations, right? Because an actual software is independent of the region. They work according to geographies, and depending on different geographies, they create different modules or different softwares, right? So I was also part of an organization like that, and there I felt that right now GPUs are very much in a process. GPUs, unlike computer CPUs, like this computer that you are, I mean, where I'm recording right now, this computer is CPU based, and most of our laptops are CPU based, and GPU is usually accessed through a cloud, and there are servers which are holding GPUs, so it's very costly. Usually, very very costly earlier, but these days, GPUs the prices have come down. Even then, it is very costly. You probably have heard about Nvidia. Nvidia is one of the largest tech giants in the world today. Nvidia's market cap alone is more than India's entire market cap. Right, so you can understand how important Nvidia is. And Nvidia manufactures GPUs, and then there are Chinese companies as well which manufacture GPUs. So GPUs are very important because they can process graph. And with the advancement of artificial intelligence with neural network and other things, right now computer need not process every or change everything to zero and one. So the encoding that was recorded before, like the compliance that was recorded before, that has been removed now. So earlier the compliance, there would be a you know a what can I say? There will be some compiler in a coding language, right, which will be converting those into zero and ones, the code into zero and ones, and so that computer can understand. That is how CPUs used to work. But these days, everything has changed. These days, you can give it an image, and GPU would process that as an image only. And that is why it is called graphical processing unit, right? So it is much faster, but it also takes a lot of energy, burns, water and it's whatnot, right? So GPUs, data centers are, coming up in different parts of the world. Probably have heard that India has given free access to the data through to different US companies, and actually in US they were resisting and protesting against data centers because data centers used to consume a lot of water, a lot of resources, and there will be a lot of pollution as well. But India, being India, has given free access to everyone, right? Tax-free access for I think next 20 or 10 years. I don't remember. I think 10 years. It was announced in this year budget. If you're not aware of this, then as an actual student, you are falling behind, right? So coming back to the topic, GPUs are something that that will be processing data in image form. Your code need not use a compiler, and that will move into that will kind of code in 0 and 1. Then it will be cloud-based technology, right? And cloud-based technologies are good because you only pay when you are using the cloud. So that will so if you because of GPU it will be faster, right? There will be no compiler needed, or compiler would be much faster. And GPU coding is slightly different from CPU coding. So an actual software which is using CPU cannot directly jump into GPU. They would need to revise their code. They need to optimize their code because they're building a big software, right? And as I mentioned, big softwares are big modules which are still being changed, right? So uh, so that is where I felt that GPU based technology should be the future, right? And because GPU based technology is the future, so it would be like, although it will be costlier, GPU would be much more costlier than CPU. But if the runtime is less, suppose a run earlier used to take maybe 16 hours, 20 hours. Now, if the runtime is less, say it is 5 hours or 6 hours, right? So then your cost automatically comes down. Although maybe if CPU also used to take 5 hours and GPU also would take 5 hours, right? Then the CPU cost will be much lower because CPUs are much cheaper. But GPU, because of faster calculation, faster momentum, right? It would be much easier and much cost saving in that way for an insurer, right? So this AI agents and the connection with the GPUs, I hope that is clear. So actual software that are using GPUs is definitely some steps ahead of actual softwares which are using CPUs. And most of the actual softwares like that especially in the life insurance sector, right? This would not impact general insurance at all because general insurance do not have long-term projection. Usually they do not have, and that would, I mean, whatever work they do, because the projection is much less, I don't think that is going to impact them that much. Their cost of running a software model is not that high in any way. So for life insurance company, usually the softwares predominantly were Access, Profit, Moses, right? Risk agility in some cases. I think Moses became risk agility. So there are a few of the cases. Now these days, Pathwise, has come, and Pathwise is probably they are dominating. They're trying to get a lot of market share. They have recently entered into an Indian market with ICICI potential, and that is no less of an achievement because in Indian core companies they have very restrictive mindset, and especially because of the regulator, right? But I think if they have entered into that domain, then big salute to them. They're doing pretty well. Having said that, I believe this is where AI agents are the most interesting piece comes in, right? So when I realized that, I also changed my company as well because my company was making softwares which are CPU based, and they were making GPU based softwares would require a lot of vision, a lot of investment, and what I felt was probably that they would take a lot more time to get to that level, and it was not looking very good. However, having said that, even GPU-based softwares would not survive for long. And you might ask me why GPU-based softwares would not survive for long, and that is where AI agents comes into picture. So these days, in my current company, we are using AI agents to code, and actually, it is called vibe coding, where you are talking to the computer in a language that right now I'm talking to you. So you are just talking to the computer. You're saying, I want to model this product. This product would have cash flows at every year, etc., etc. And then you need to discount it to maybe today's date, right? Or suppose you are doing something complex like nested projection. So you want a projection, say from March 2013 or March 31st to 26, you want a projection for the next 5 years. And then the frequency would be annual, right? So from March to 31st, there will be one value or one value of reserve. Then March 31st, 2027, there will be one value. Then March 31st to 28, there will be one value. And from there, you want another projection, right? So March 27 value would then be used as the starting point, and then there will be another projection, right? So it will be just like a straight line, and there will be branches, right? So it's just like the concept of multiple universe, right? So you have probably already, if you have seen Loki and other Marvel, series, then probably you have already heard of that time series branching, etc. Right? So this is nested projection, and you can easily tell AI agent that I want to do that, right? And the AI agent would code it for you. Earlier, it would have taken a lot more time, a lot more effort. Now, if your company has purchased GPUs or company has access to cloud where GPUs are enabled, right? You can write your own code. Why do you need a bloody software? And why do you would like to put millions and millions of rupees and that also train your resource, etc. Right? You can say that there will be some control present there, but I think that you can control by doing version control, and there are so many AI agents which can help you in control as well. So I don't think actual softwares are going to survive in the future for AI with the advent of AI agents. And you can basically now your as an actually your job would be to be more creative. How can you create a product which would be maybe more complex? But earlier you would not have the liberty to design a product which is more complex because you may not be able to model that cash flow in your current actual software. But right now that limitation is removed, right? You can easily model anything, and you do not purchase a license for a software. I remember when I was entering into actuarial domain, and I used to sit for interviews. People used to ask me question like, do you know profit? And how can someone know profit? Because profit is not a computer level software. It is an enterprise level software. You have to have an enterprise. You have to place it or install it in a server, and then every people with the license can access that. Same goes for access, right? But these days, with the advent of AI agents, this would be removed. Now, no server would be required, and that would every company would opt for that because that would be tremendous cost saving, right? So first company will try to bring the simplistic products like maybe term product, annuity products into those things, and then they will go into complex products like universal life or ULIP products. They can model financial guarantee, which is right now which is not allowed by IRDA, mainly because of SEBI. But those can also be modeled. And right now you just say to the computer that you have to do this, right? And the computer will automatically code for that. The AI agent will automatically code for that. So I think right now there might be some of the GPU based softwares that are springing up, and they would like to promote themselves that they are faster and they're quicker, and you'll see LinkedIn post, etc., etc. But those are also fad. Like they are just going to last for maybe 2 3 years. Then eventually every company is going to realize that why do we need a bloody software to pay a subscription fees every year, and that too in millions, right? I don't need that. I need a cloud subscription. And if I get a cloud subscription which has access to GPUs, then I can do that, right? So modeling and software, I believe that like we can like based on my understanding, I can say that CPU based actual softwares are already dead. If this just the inertia that's keeping it alive, they are already dead. Now, if they can create something with GPU based technology, right? So then their lifespan is slightly extended. But eventually, all companies are going to move out of these actual softwares and they are going to create their own, right? So there an actual student need to think more creatively. They need to come up with more validation related logic. They need to check the cash flows from the first principle. So first principle concept, actual concept, clarity of that becomes very, very important because an AI agent can hallucinate and quote something rubbish. And it is your responsibility to see that that is correct. Also, in the next couple of years, we are going to have tremendous validation excels where whatever coding you have done in profit or access, right? You have to identify that similar result is being produced by the the Python agent or AI agent that you're using, right? So that is where also actual student would earn a lot, and they would also learn a lot, right? First they will learn and then they can earn. Then IFRS 17, something that is coming up, and IFRS 17 will be applicable in Indian companies. All the consultancies, the big four, so they would be eyeing that opportunity, right? So I think they're also actual student will have advantage. And now these days you can use the AI agent. So when I learned IFRS 17, there was very limited, knowledge. Even now there is very limited knowledge, but at least AI agent can tell you, or a chat GPT can tell you what is CSM. In our time, that was not there, right? But still, of course, to understand something in deep, you need to work in that environment, and then only your concept will get clear, because it is a principle-based regulation, right? And there will be uh, I mean, there will be areas where there will be contradictions, right? So you have to understand that on your own, and only by working, only by discussing with others. And finally, whether AI would replace actual students or actuaries, I don't think so. I think, but the nature of our job would change. Now, the people who is more creative, they are going to earn more, right? The people who have more conceptual clarity, they are going to earn more. Papers are already redundant and they'll become even more redundant. These days, anyways, any Tom, Dick, and Harry is becoming fellow. So that is going to, the advantage of being fellow that was present 20 years earlier, that is going to go out. Maybe in few years, those degrees will be irrelevant, because now anybody with creative mindset can come into actuary and code, right? And create his or her own product, right? So we'll also see many more insurance companies coming up with very complex design, rather than a protection product, a saving product. And that is also something that I feel that most smart insurers would do, because people would move slightly away from protection, because I think with the advancement in medical science as well, people will probably able to understand how long they are going. So they would need to save money for that. And the more money you control, the more asset under management or AUM you have, would actually give you the benefit to manipulate the market and get more money, right? A great example of that is, if you have not heard about it yet, that is Jane Street, which were manipulating the market, and they are also using GPUs and everything, right, to identify very small discrepancies, very small arbitrage opportunities where there is slight movement, and they are using very high complicated technology to fast process some order, and get very small amount of points, but that because of the volume, that would be large amount of profit, right? So you can do all of that if you have huge amount of money. Another example is BlackRock. They have they are greater than probably couple of major economies combined. They control that much of money, and they control that much of the market. And so all these are big companies, and I think new risk will emerge. And because of new risk, right now, earlier when we started, actually VBA, SQL, those are important. These days, you can ask a chat GPT a query, and you can do that, right? Still, your background knowledge would be very important, because many times you need to, if you know the language, then only you can write good prompt. Otherwise, you write 20 prompts to reach, maybe reach a code that you need, if you do not have the domain knowledge. So domain knowledge is always important. That goes true for Actuary, that goes true for Excel, that goes true for VBA. That does not mean that you should stop learning Excel, you should stop learning VBA, but memorizing everything, that has gone out of the window, right? You just need to know there is a function like this, right? And if you want to be creative, the AI would just allow you to be that much creative, right? So now creative people will shine, and I feel that actually we see a lot of creativity in product design and similar things, and new risk will emerge because of AI. Validation would be very, very important because of AI. So I don't see actuaries going anywhere. It's just that the nature of work would change, and domain knowledge would be very, very important. Until unless you know about stock market or trading, you cannot create an AI agent to its fullest potential, because you will not be able to visualize that. And that is where I think people who are still sharing marks in LinkedIn saying that, I have got 99.2% in class 12, or I have cleared CM1 with 96%, 98%, or following coaching centers which are doing question analysis after the in an exam is just plain stupid. It's just dumb. For the lack of better words, just I can't say anything else. It's just dumb because you can actually put that question paper into into a chat GPT and everything, and they will probably give you some better answers. So it does not make any sense. If you have not yet studied about AI, you should do that. And there are two types of people in AI. That would be one would be who are users of AI, like they would write prompt and they would use AI, right? And once again, domain knowledge would be very, very important in writing good prompts. And another would be people who create AI. So they would understand the underlying mathematics. So that will give them better vision and they can create their own algorithm. There will be very few people who would be in this creator category, right? So even the big people whom like the creator of Chat GPT or the owner of Chat, not creator, the owner of Chat GPT himself do not know artificial intelligence and other things. He is the investor, right? So similarly, Elon Musk, another name, is every day he's posting something in Twitter, but he's not a good someone who knows deeply about maybe artificial intelligence and how the mathematics behind this works. It's like a black box only, right? So if you have understanding on that, then also you can utilize that understanding to create something which is of your own. Like in Iron Man, they created Jarvis, right? Or there are other things. That is exactly how AI agents behave. So if you have resources and if you have the knowledge, you can create something of your own that will dominate the world even after you are not there. Right. So this is the opportunity. This is the time to be creative, and you can do so if you learn about those, right? So if you have not yet studied artificial intelligence, you probably have 1 year or maybe 8 to 9 months to understand that, to get into the rhythm. If you are still sharing marks of class 12 and actual papers over LinkedIn and thinking that as an achievement, because in the past that was an achievement, then you are already outdated, right? Whether you are 17 years old or 16 years old, you'll be treated as an 80-year-old and you'll be thrown out of the market. And that is the hard truth. So be cautious on that one. And finally, I'd like to end this with saying that as I mentioned, there is no substitute of domain knowledge. So this would also ease your work, right? Something that you would probably need someone else to explain, probably these days or maybe in some days, later, some years later, that can be done by a chat GPT, or that can be answered by a chat GPT or Grok, etc. Right? So you will have a lot of time. So you need to utilize that time well. If you cannot utilize that time, then once again you fall behind. So the speed is going to increase as well, right? People who already have the resource probably would be slightly better placed as compared to people who do not have the resource, because they can utilize the resource to gain tremendous momentum, right? If they are sincere enough, if they are willing to adapt and learn, right? And considering the impact of AI, in my own company, because I'm heading my actual department, I'll try to propose, uh, in addition to the actual development program, AI development program, AIDP, right? Because people who would be in that domain, it will not be mandatory for everyone. Hopefully, it will be, optional, and I'll also get to choose resource who are likely to, who are more interested in that domain and would be likely to perform in that domain and with certain conditions. But then I feel that this is high time every insurer should go for AIDP. We are not looking for actuaries anymore. In fact, we never were only looking for actuaries. We are always looking for actuaries who are coders, actuaries who are project managers, actuaries who are maybe skillful communicators, etc. We were never looking only for actuaries. Now these days, all of those can be taken by AI. So we are now looking for actuaries who are AI creators, right? Or maybe actuaries who are AI users, right? So either of this, AI creators and actually would be slightly higher as well. And especially people who have strong domain knowledge, that domain knowledge will enable them to be creative in this field and adapt, right? With that mindset, I think they are going to surpass everyone, and they are going to see numbers in their salary, or in whatever they do. Uh, that is beyond what the previous generation can imagine. So it is your time now. Everyone is on a level playing field now. if you have the mentality, mindset, and if you can adapt, you can take on the right things, and if you can leave the wrong things, such as sharing marks and LinkedIn and something like that, if you can run over or run after something which is excellence and not success as per the society, like in they say in Three Idiots, then only you are going to survive. Otherwise, you are going to be wiped out from this industry, and you'll be wiped out hard. It will leave a lasting depression in your mindset because you have done everything else right as per the previous generation. You would have got 99% or 99.2%, from some good university or college, etc. You would have scored good marks in all your actual subjects, yet you'll be unemployed. So that will leave a very lasting depression on your head, right? And we are already seeing the number of suicides going higher and higher, especially among students. These are the reason because you are following things that are prevalent in the past. You have to follow things that are prevalent now. You have to be more creative. You have to learn. You have to unlearn what you have learned before, and you have to learn new things, right? And you always have to increase your domain knowledge. There is no substitute for domain knowledge, right? Only when you know domain like the back of your hand, only then you can write good prompts. So I hope that is sufficient for today. If you like this video, please do share this video with your friends. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and see you.